Hi, I'm going to do a little bit of a tutorial. This is going to go through a couple of different poses that are good for the hips and possibly those of you that have some problems with sciatica. So what I would say is be careful that you're not actually in the throes of sciatica at the time. This is not, yeah, could aggravate it if you're already there. But it is good to release all the muscles that tend to tighten up and then cause problems with this sciatic nerve. So depending on where your pain is coming from and being caused by, will depend on which of these poses work for you, depend on your body shape. Also depends where the sciatic nerve runs, because it either goes through a muscle or around it. So be mindful when you try these things. Be mindful of how it feels in your body, and not to take it too far, and to build it up gradually. So even when we feel really free and easy and it all feels good, taking yourself too deep into the pose one day, next day, 2 days down the line, yeah, it's maybe caused you a few problems because it's flared something up. So just be very aware of what's right for your body. Try them out. If it doesn't feel right, don't go there. Should never feel pain when you're doing these poses. It could feel quite intense in some places, but yeah, no pain. This is certainly not no pain, no gain. That doesn't work. So I'm going to just start just with a few pelvic rolls. So taking the feet to the mat, knees are really, and feet are really quite wide. Hands can be resting on the shins, and then see if you can find your way up onto your sit bones. So this is the bottom of the pelvis pushing down into the mat, and then you're just going to start to sink back. So tucking, thinking about lifting the front of the pelvis up, lifting the pubic bone up as you roll back, and then inhale, coming back up, thinking about turning the pelvis a bit more so that you're tilting the pubic bone down towards the mat now, and lift and rolling, chest up, bottom down, and release. So this, more than anything, so this is not about the shoulders and the upper back moving. This is about getting this roll going through the hips here. Fingertips to the mat might help. You might be more comfortable doing it this way. And breathing well. Okay, I'm going to come into our first pose, which is going to be Janu Shirsasana. So reaching left leg forward, pushing the heel to the floor. Knee could be bent if you need to. And you're going to close the knee joint on the right leg. Allow that knee to come out to the side. The foot pushes to the inside of the thigh. So if that's too deep, foot's coming to the inside of the calf. Just be aware that if the knee's quite elevated, yeah, to support it by putting a block or a cushion underneath. Rolling this hip open and down. If you are quite close and it's okay for the knee, there's no discomfort in the knee, take the hand to the inside of the thigh and roll that thigh open and down. And then think about opening this way in the knee joint as well. So you're trying to roll bottom leg and top leg apart, like that. Okay. Fingertips behind, drawing the tummy in, lifting tall, maybe just taking a little twist, take the right hand to the outside of the left, starting to get a little bit more length on this side now. Those of you with a deeper flexibility can maybe bring the hands forward, so hands to the outside of the shin, maybe taking the outside of the foot, and then as you exhale, allowing yourself to sink further forward and down, tuck the head in. So once you come forward, this becomes about the back of the long leg, which is also a good thing to stretch when we've got tightness. But just be aware of how that feels in the back of the knee and the hamstrings. If you need to, bend the knee to come away from it a little bit. And then we're going to walk ourselves back up, taking the knee in carefully and bringing the leg out. Coming into the other side, close the knee joint, allow it to roll out. So finding your position, same as the other side, take it to the inside. So it might be completely different on this side. My left's definitely tighter than the right. Rolling the hip back and down and coming forward. So you could keep the hand there, Just don't force anything. This is not about yeah, making it go down. And again, be aware of how the knee feels. Maybe you're opening the joint at the side here as well, coming forward and down, or staying upright. So if you're staying upright, you're just twisting a little bit. It's not a deep twist, just getting a little bit away from here. Maybe you're reaching, taking the foot and coming down. So once in your extent of the pose, here's then sinking in. So taking 3, 5 breaths. Those of you that have got plenty of time, yes, stay there for a few minutes. Just be very careful when you're coming out. And as each breath, you're allowing yourself to sink a little deeper. And then bringing yourself back up. Okay, we're going to take a seated twist. I'm going to build a couple of versions for this as well. So left foot coming out in front. Right knee is coming up to stand and the foot pushing into the floor. So to start with, you're going to keep the foot on the inside of the leg and sit tall and maybe do all the next action with the foot on the inside. Those of you that have got the movement in the hips to bring the foot over, you're going to bring the foot over, foot still in line with the knee that's in the front leg, and you're going to hug that knee towards the chest, sitting upright as much as possible. So keep wrapping this left arm around the right shin and then rotate, lift the chest and rotate to the right. Right hand comes behind or to the side and you look into that right side. Or if you can, you're going to look all the way behind. If you can take this a bit further, you're taking the back, the shoulder to the outside of the knee. Maybe you're just holding on to the hip. Maybe you can bring the hand to reach the inside of the calf. It's not the inside, it's the outside. And keep that twist coming a bit deeper. So again, you're not forcing any of this, you're just taking it to your level and then using the breath to sink heavy into it. Okay, we're going to unwrap that side. I'm going to come into the other side. So this side might be completely different. Close the knee joint, sitting tall, wrapping the arm around the shin and sit upright. So this might be enough for you. Allowing the shoulders to relax as much as possible. Still focusing on your breath. Those that you can take the foot over the long leg, foot's next to the knee, you're not bringing it up next to the hip. Lean back a little to allow yourself to turn. So it all depends on the amount of space you've got between leg and chest as to how much you can hug that knee in. So bring the knee into the body, wrapping the right arm around the shin and turn towards the left. Maybe take the left hand behind, fingertips to the floor, and allow yourself to turn a little bit more. So if you can, I'm going to take the back of the elbow or the shoulder to the outside of the knee, and you're giving it a little bit of leverage there. Try not to go too far, obviously. Look into the side, or maybe look behind. And again, the hand can maybe rest on the outside of the calf, or the full pose is to take the inside of the foot. Watch how it feels in your elbow. And release. Okay. So the biggie, I'm going to do pigeon. So pigeon is notorious for being the one to do for if you get these tight areas here and you get sciatica. So, and I totally agree. It's a great way to release the hips, but it's not always easy to do. So I'm going to bring the left leg out in front and you're going to place the right foot on top of the thigh above the knee and allow the knee to come out to the side. If the knee, again, make sure you've got this little space in the knee joint and the inside and see how it feels here. You may need to prop up the knee, fingertips here may already feel tight. Those you can take that a bit deeper. You're going to bring the left foot to stand, bringing the shin towards the chest and then sitting up towards it. So that rather than leaning back away from the legs and round in the back, you want to sit forward onto the sit bones, lift the chest towards the shin. So the closer that comes to the body, the more lifted you are, the bigger the stretch is in the hip. So this could still be down here, thinking about coming forward. You could even think about reaching forward as long as it feels okay on the knee. So I'm going to keep going on the same side. I'm going to keep taking it to the next level. So now we're going to come to lie down on our back and bring the leg up. So carefully bring the knee in towards the chest. You'll have possibly done things like this in an exercise class or yoga if you've done quite a bit of yoga. The closer again, the shin comes to the chest, the bigger the stretch is going to be. So you can add in the leverage of the leg being upright. Those you can reach, maybe you're going to hold on to the calf and just allow that to be heavy to draw down a little bit more. So it's okay if the bottom comes up off the floor a little bit, but just be aware of how that feels in the hip of the bent leg. So the way you can take this a bit deeper, you're going to hold on to the foot and the shin and allow this leg to come down to the floor. So either it comes bent or comes long. And then maybe you're going to wrap your arms around that leg and sink down. So if the leg's bent, yeah, the left leg's bent, it's easier. If it's straight, you're pushing that heel to the floor, keeping it active. So again, be careful you don't go too far. What I would say is if you've got sciatica, there's no way you're doing anything like that. That is going to be too far. Okay, allow it to relax back down, come onto the elbows and sitting yourself back up. Okay, so I'm going to do what you might recognize as being the traditional pigeon. So we're going to start with that right foot tucked underneath the left hip, and the knee is pointing almost the corner of your mat, and you're going to take the left leg back so it can stay bent like this and think about sitting up. Although if you've got bad hips, that possibly is going to feel more uncomfortable than bringing the leg further back. So for me, that's where my tightness is. That's intense on this side for me, but not on the side that I'm trying to stretch. So that's not working. So leaning forward onto the hands and bringing that leg out behind. Knee, top of the knee is going down. So if you need to pad up underneath the knee, do that. Untuck the toes. And then you're trying to settle into that area of the hips. So this is when blocks are really quite handy. You're going to stick a block underneath that hip. Maybe you need to stick two underneath and sit quite high. What I would say is this gets a little bit complicated for your lower back, so be careful. So you may need to, if you've got blocks, keep the fingertips down rather than coming up because it makes the back bend deeper. Okay, those blocks are too high for me. So what you're trying to do is sink into that hip area, sink into the front of this hip, keeping the hips square if you can, hands to the mat. Maybe you're bringing it down. Those of you that are working on flexibility rather than this being about the release of the hips, you're working on the flexibility, you're bringing the foot further up in line with the knee. And then maybe you're going to come down. So that takes it away from the stretch on the front of this hip, but it deepens the stretch on the outside of the bottom on the other hip. And hold there. And to come out of this, you're going to walk the hands in and release. Okay, so I'm going to quickly go through the same thing on the left side, just so you're not one-sided. So we started with just bringing the foot to rest on top of the thigh and sit tall, right leg coming long. So what you could do is if you found the full pigeon fine, just go into that now. You don't have to do that. I'm just going through each stage that might be appropriate for you. So making sure that the knee joint feels safe, making sure that this is rotating down, lifting the foot up, bringing the chest towards that thigh. Now, to be honest, we can take this as deep as the pigeon. This one you've got more control with because you're seated. You can lift up, you can rock, which is quite nice, side to side. This is the one that you have most control with, where the stretch is. Just be very aware of how that's feeling in your knee and the hip and the lower back. Drum is drawn in, chest lifted. So maybe you want to take it to the lying down version, which is really quite nice. So come into lie down. This might be enough for you. Maybe picking it up. And again, taking a deep inhale, one sigh, let everything go. Maybe bringing the leg to straight and drawing it in a little bit deeper, my tight side. Or maybe just holding on to the leg. So yeah, not entirely sure if this works on this side for me. Okay, so just being really quite mindful as to how that's now feeling in this area here, and especially how the knee's feeling. What I would say is don't ever do that kind of twist. That's not going to be good for any of your joints. Okay, so coming back up. Did we do any others? Tucking that foot underneath. So the closer the heel comes to the groin, the less stretch there is in the hip. So the further forward you bring the foot and the shin more parallel to the front of the mat, the deeper the stretch is going to be on that hip. And again, you can put a cushion or a block underneath the hip on the left side and bring in the right leg back behind and squaring those hips back up again so that you're coming fully forward. Fingertips to the floor might be enough. So think once there about stretching this right leg a little bit further back. So it's like a push back as you draw the tummy in and lengthen the body forward. Maybe you're bringing the hands a bit further forward and sinking in a bit more, and using the breath now as you exhale just to relax this whole area here. Again, you might like to do that little encouragement of the rotation, and maybe you're going to come to lie down. And bring the forehead to the hands is again a really nice way to relax. So you can stay as long as you like in these poses, but what I would be aware of is how deep you go into them over time. So be careful coming out. So when you first start them, don't hold them for too long until you know that they don't aggravate anything. So once you're finished coming back onto the hips, maybe give it a wiggle. Knees can be quite wide, heels together, not heels, toes together, and come down onto the elbows. Maybe stack the hands and rest the head in the hands. And you maybe want to keep this child pose wiggling. It feels quite nice. However you practice, just make sure it's right for you.